picture a massive warehouse.
Okay.
But it isn't filled with dusty boxes of discarded junk. It's packed, floor to ceiling, with the most brilliant, mind-blowing technology you have literally never heard of.
Wow. Like a graveyard of absolute genius.
Right. Perfect working prototypes, goods and services that could genuinely alter an industry or, even change the world. And yet they're just sitting there in the dark, completely forgotten.
It's actually tragic when you think about it.
It really is. And what makes it so wild is that while these revolutionary tools gather dust, millions of people are perfectly happy using objectively inferior products every single day.
Yeah, which just completely defies logic.
Exactly. So what is the invisible force that decides why one innovation becomes a global phenomenon while a seemingly better one just quietly disappears into that warehouse? Well, that is our mission for you today.
We are decoding the incredibly murky waters of technology adoption.
Yep. And we're using a summary of the legendary framework, Crossing the Chasm by Geoffrey Moore, as our blueprint for this deep dive.
Because the fundamental truth we're exploring today is that having a great good or service is really only half the battle. If you don't deeply understand the psychology of the market, you will fail. A piece of technology doesn't succeed just because of its code, It succeeds because a specific sequence of human behaviors allows it to.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because before we figure out how to conquer the market, we have to understand the different types of people who actually make up that market.
Right. Which brings us to chapter 1.
Yeah, and there is this fatal flaw that almost every tech company makes right out of the gate. It's an illusion they fall for. They assume the entire world thinks exactly like an early adopter.
Oh, it's an incredibly dangerous trap.
It is.
You have these visionaries who build, say, a state-of-the-art virtual reality headset. They take it to gamers and tech enthusiasts, right?
Like classic early adopters.
Exactly. And those people go absolutely wild for it. They embrace the novelty and they buy it immediately.
But then the company takes that exact same VR gear and tries to sell it to an ordinary consumer or, a mainstream family.
And they are met with total apathy.
Yes. The mainstream buyer looks at it and thinks, where does this fit into my living room? This looks super complicated. And the company is just left wondering if their product is broken.
Right. But the product isn't broken. Their understanding of the user's psychology is.
It's like cooking a highly experimental, incredibly spicy dish.
Oh, I like that.
Right? Your adventurous foodie friends might be thrilled. But you can't just serve that same dish to a conservative eater and expect them to praise it. So I have to ask you, is the problem the product or the audience?
Well, the framework in Chapter 2 answers that by introducing the technology adoption lifecycle. It breaks the market down into a progression.
Like a psychological timeline.
Yeah. You have your innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and finally, the laggards. And what's fascinating here is that each of these groups has totally distinct motivations.
Okay, so the early adopters want the novelty.
Yeah.
They want the spice.
Right. But the mainstream customer, the early majority, and everyone after operates on a totally different wavelength. They are highly pragmatic. They want practical benefits and reliability.
So they need absolute assurance before they buy.
Exactly. Take a cutting-edge smartphone, for example. If a company launches a phone with a totally untested operating system, tech enthusiasts are thrilled to be beta testers.
They'll spend hours on forums talking about it.
Yeah, but the conservative mainstream buyer, they don't care about possibilities. They demand tried-and-true tech. They want to know if the battery will survive a travel day.
So the company has to completely tear down and rebuild how they build trust.
Precisely. They have to stop selling the shiny future and start selling hard evidence.
Now, if this adoption cycle is just a progression from one group to the next, it sounds pretty easy. You just step right over to the early majority. But there is a massive hidden trapdoor.
A trapdoor that has swallowed countless brilliant companies.
Yeah. Here's where it gets really interesting. Chapter 3 calls this trapdoor the chasm. It's this massive gap where most companies just completely fail.
And the source uses the analogy of D-Day to explain how hard it is to cross.
Right. And they use the example of a software startup with a revolutionary productivity tool. At first, everything is great. Early adopters love the advanced features.
Which gives the startup this massive false positive.
Exactly. They assume the mainstream market is ready, so they try to deploy it across mainstream businesses, and suddenly the buying just stops.
Mainstream businesses balk because all they see are compatibility and reliability concerns.
So why exactly does this chasm exist?
Well, it's a fundamental clash of values. It's technology, which is novelty, versus pragmatism, which is proven solutions.
Ah, I see.
A visionary early adopter wants to disrupt things, but a pragmatist, they manage risk for a living. If a pragmatist buys untested software and it breaks their workflow, they get fired.
So they just want a reliable evolution of what they already have.
Exactly. So to fix this, crossing the chasm requires a complete pivot in positioning.
What kind of pivot?
Companies have to articulate a compelling value proposition that speaks directly to pragmatic concerns. No more talking about just cool features.
Okay, so now that we know the chasm is there and why it's so deadly, how do we actually build a bridge over it?
Well, it starts with extreme focus.
Right. Chapter 4 talks about targeting the point of attack.
Yeah.
And the strategy is super counterintuitive. To go big, you basically first have to go narrow,
Yes.
like the fitness tracker example in the source. Instead of selling to everyone who jogs, the company strictly targets fitness fanatics first.
Right. They customize the product entirely for the unique needs of that one niche.
But wait, if the goal is to reach the mainstream, isn't it incredibly risky to intentionally ignore the broader market and just focus on one hyper-specific niche?
It seems that way, but it's actually the only way to win over the early majority.
How so?
Because the early majority acts as the bridge to the mainstream. Pragmatists don't trust companies. They only trust other pragmatists.
Oh, so they need social proof.
Exactly. By concentrating resources, you prove the product's reliability in one space first. You dominate that niche, and they start talking to each other.
So you manufacture that social proof.
Yes. And once you have that, you transition to Chapter 5, which is assemble the invasion force.
Because you can't cross the chasm with just a good product team, right?
Right. You need totally diverse skill sets across sales, marketing, and customer support.
The source uses that great example of the tech startup launching a mobile inventory app for small businesses.
Yeah, that illustrates it perfectly.
They don't just scale up their coders. They build a fully committed, collaborative team to handle every single angle of market entry.
Because there's gonna be friction.
Yeah.
The visionary product manager wants to build cool future stuff, but the sales team knows the mainstream just wants a dashboard that works today.
So the whole company has to pivot. Okay, so we have our target niche and we have our elite team. Now, we need the exact tactical steps to execute the invasion.
Which is Chapter 6, define the battle.
Yes. And this is about the absolute necessity of deep market research. You have to find customer pain points and establish differentiation.
It's not just sending out a generic survey, though.
No, not at all. Take the software company launching a project management tool. Because they actually researched small business needs, they knew exactly what to highlight.
Right, affordability and ease of use. Not the fancy integrations the early adopters loved.
It's basically like mapping the terrain before a major expedition. You wouldn't hike a mountain without knowing where the pitfalls are, you know?
That's a great way to look at it. And once you've mapped it, you're ready for Chapter 7, launch the invasion.
Entering the mainstream requires serious momentum.
It does. You can't just put up banner ads and expect pragmatists to buy. You have to build buzz.
Like the college social networking platform example.
Exactly. They built momentum by creating buzz through campus events.
And leveraging early adopter advocacy, right? Like influencers.
Yeah, getting campus leaders to use it visibly, it builds localized credibility.
It flips the risk profile. Suddenly, the risk isn't trying the app. The risk is being left out.
Precisely. And the launch isn't just a one-off event. It's a highly iterative approach. You continuously gather feedback from that market dynamic and make improvements.
So what does this all mean? Well, whether you're launching a startup, trying to implement a new workflow in your office, or just evaluating the latest tech trends, this framework is everything.
It really is.
Understanding the massive gap between visionaries and pragmatists saves you time, effort, and failure. Building a revolutionary product is honestly useless if you don't build the psychological bridge for the mainstream market.
Which, this raises an important question.
And what's that?
If crossing the chasm is fundamentally about shifting from selling novelty to selling reliability, how much of a technology's ultimate success is actually about the quality of the technology itself?
Oh, wow.
Right. Versus the psychology of trust and social proof among the early majority.
That is wild to think about. It really makes you wonder if the best tech is even what's winning or just the best psychology. Well, that is all the time we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
Keep learning, keep questioning the systems around you, and don't forget to subscribe and like for more deep dives. We will catch you next time.